And now we are live in the Facebook group. If you'd like to join the Facebook group, send us a message. So on here, right?
I'm gonna be real with you. I didn't know we had a Facebook group. Shit.
All right. Well, if you didn't know, now you know. All right. Facebook group where we deal with things on health and wealth. I think those two things go pretty handily together. And they just so happen to be the two things that interest us. So would you look at that?
Would you look at
as Elliot just stated, two things I kind of thought of last week to add to the first two steps that you stated about baby steps, financial baby steps. Is step one, let's consider that 1,000 may now be 2,000 due to inflation. Thank you. So it's possible that 1,000 may not be enough anymore. So let's consider. Let's call it 2,000 to be safe. I like to overestimate, especially when it's the government taking money, And then two is utilize. I think both of us utilize the debt snowball, but also the debt avalanche, which a lot of people ask me about. It's like, what about the interest rate? Well, you can target the highest interest rate first, but the thing is, the debt snowball is designed to get you momentum.
Pause. I think you need to take a step back. What in God's great name is a debt avalanche? I ain't never heard of that. Yeah, that's more intense than a snowball. That's we coming at them that hard, like avalanche. You gonna kill them. I'm gonna kill this debt. You gonna bury it.
It is. I think the biggest thing to get from both of those is that both are pretty intense. I think the only thing left is like a debt tsunami or something. Those are pretty intense forces of nature. All right. So I think the intensity level is what you want to gather for it.
With a debt nuke be like winning the lotto.
I haven't heard that before. Debt nuke might just be like
winning the lotto. That's it. You just take care of it.
Yeah, you just get a giant insertion of money like the government. Yeah. Doesn't print money for the feds anyway.
Yeah, whatever.
But difference between debt snowball and debt avalanche is avalanche arranges it based on interest rate. So targeting highest interest rate to lowest interest rate, where debt snowball targets smallest total amount to highest total amount.
Also,
so debt snowball being like, let me get a couple W's real quick, whereas avalanche being, let me have the greatest total impact by targeting the interest rates as to what I owe. Now, the con there is that it may be in such an order that you will be chipping away at the first one for a while before you get a victory. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I like the concept of the snowball. I like that building momentum thing. Also because I'm really slow at starting shit, so that's it's better for me. I need that momentum personally. Also, if you're listening, don't drop your debt, but just list what debt you think is like giving you the most problems. I just want to see where it comes from.
Yeah, like what area?
Car, your credit cards. Just give us a little indicator, like where you're at. You don't have to tell us
your loans.
Yeah.
Credit cards. What else you got?
Pelotons.
What was that?
A Peloton. People be financing Pelotons and shit. You can finance.
Oh yeah. The growth of financing.
Yeah,
right? The growth of like. But we financing bikes, sofas, TVs.
You can finance shoes, bro. I like on air, like H&M and stuff. You can buy clothes and finance it, like paid off over 6 months. Like,
I didn't know that.
You could like do that, like StockX, where like I go to see to buy like designer shoes and stuff. You could get that. You could finance shoes. You could get a payment plan for like the Ray-Bans, bro. Like you can get it for like anything.
That's also wild.
Yeah, baby bomber's expensive. That's
so they got rid of layaway because they knew that they could just push you on a financing plan.
Yeah, I mean those companies are doing great, Klarna, stuff like that. They're crazy.
Zero APR. The phones are the big ones. Last like 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Yo, I almost financed the phone, but I think I told you about my finance story last week that I'm done with financing stuff. I'm done.
Oh yeah. On your AirPods. Yo, you
I,
gotta tell. All right, go ahead and tell them story how you finance your AirPod Pro Max 1145, whatever they are.
Guys, I love AirPods. I'm gonna be real with you. I convinced John to buy AirPods. I convinced my mom. I convinced everybody. And these Pros came out, and I lost one side. So I was like, you know what? We're gonna finance these AirPod Pros because they have to be better than the other ones. But they're shit. They're total shit. They fall out my ear instantly. Nobody can ever hear me properly. They're always breaking off on calls, and it's just they're terrible. And I still have $166 left on this finance plan. I'll be watching it all the time. Worst investment ever. I ain't never doing that again.
Worse, yeah. And let's be clear, man. I've definitely financed phones, not AirPods yet, but I've definitely financed a phone before. It's never really an investment. All right.
You never need a brand new phone. But you really never need a brand new phone. Like honestly, I bought all my last 3 of my phones secondhand. And they're just fine. I'm gonna buy the next couple secondhand too. In fact, my MacBook is secondhand. I buy all my tech secondhand now.
And it's dope. It's dope. I mean, cause I think overall you get the instant gratification of being able to get the newest of the new. But let's be real. Let's look at the pace of technology moving. Like it's like a car, right? You get the new one, you drive it off the lot. And you're looking at immediately like what minus 20 to 40%.
Yeah.
Same thing as any technology. Like you get it, and within like 2 days.
Yeah, and it's done, bro. Gratification's gone. That shit. They come out with new tech for next year. You know, they add a fourth camera. You know, and now you're looking like a pleb with only 2 cameras. Two lenses. Anyway, yeah. Let's move on. Yeah. So you do the debt snowball. Now you reach at like your emergency fund, 3 to 6 months expenses. In fact, I kind of have to increase mine right now. My spending habits may have increased a little bit since last year.
You got to increase it to build in enough room for your spending habits. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I think that's something people miss. They do the first emergency fund and they leave it at that, but they never account for their lifestyle that increases with their pay and stuff. Like it was cool when I first moved here in New York, but I've been in New York for a minute. And now that I'm going to get this vaccine and stuff, I'm probably going to spend a lot of money going out. So your boy needs to make sure that whatever this emergency fund is, could handle my needs in case of emergency.
Fair enough. I think that makes a lot of sense. Like setting a fund and not coming back to it. Because if you set an emergency fund aside and then you get married and have a kid, your emergency fund is probably going to have to change a little bit because your expenses change. I'm with that.
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah, you need to make sure. I mean, kids are expensive, bro. I don't even want a dog right now. I've been seeing how people, how much dogs cost. I'm like, yo, a kid is like 20 times a dog because you got to take care of it for like 22 years. And yeah, I don't even want a dog, bro. Doggy daycare is more expensive than preschool. Well, it's not, but it can be.
That makes sense. All right. So after you do that, what's the next piece of it? I have it kind of depends on who you listen to, right? In what order. I originally learned about this stuff from Dave Ramsey, so I looked at it, and he says 3 to 6 months, which would be 10% towards savings, and then you go on. So he's very big on like the order of things. So and then you go on to 15% savings. I've also heard others who would say, you can do the 15 and the 10 simultaneously, depending on on kind of the size of your shovel, right? So you can. I just don't know. I guess if you're over 3 months and you want to grow 3 more months of expenses, you could do 10% of the total income or net income towards saving more, and then 15% at the same time towards your investments, and you still have 75 left.
Yeah, pause. You know what? I think we should stop there because we just had this conversation where people be talking about stocks all the time, and like so we're talking about like savings and everything. And I know a lot of people they get a little bit of money and immediately want to put it in stocks and jump on Robinhood, and they think they're going to be the next Warren Buffett, and ain't nobody going to be the next Warren Buffett. Like like investing in a couple of stocks on Robinhood. Well, it might be cool and let you talk to people and say you built it, but I mean, ETFs is like your real foundations, and like again, being able to save money is probably like would go a longer way than putting $200 in Robinhood or some shit like that.
Yeah. And when Robinhood got really big is when I got a lot of these discussions going down, and that was when I was also working at a financial institution. So I would get these calls coming in from clients who were thinking about alternative investments, and they would usually, like, even though we didn't give advice on the phone or anything like that, they would usually lay out their entire portfolio and be like, "Oh, yeah, so what do you think if I buy these alternative investments?" I'm like, well, first of all, you just told me you're $200,000 in student loan debt, and you make $60K. You make $60K a year, and you live in San Francisco. No, you should not go into alternative investments because that's really scary.
You borrow to pay rent right now if you live in San Francisco.
Right? And stuff like this was happening, man. Like, there was people that would take in jobs with companies and making like, 50 to 70 max, and they were living in the city where they're splitting rent with people. You can pay anywhere from like 35 to 55,000 to live in the city, right? So you got people splitting that, and their job is very unstable. So when you look at Corona, where those people can work remote, all of a sudden that entire base has been displaced. All right. So you really got to think about, like,
situation.
Do you have enough protection? Like, do you have enough income? Your greatest wealth, Ben and I said, is your income. You have enough protection for your income, and then what are you doing to grow it aggressively through investments without exposing yourself to so much risk? And I mean, again, we're just a couple guys just chatting about this stuff on a very basic level. So, take what you will.
No risk, no reward.
Any hints you have.
No risk, no reward. Just take that whole emergency fund and that's all. I don't know.
You about to say something foolish. I know you about to say something.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, just flip a key. Yeah,
If there are any kids listening to this, please don't leave that.
Yeah, bro. I really have to take Naldo's class.
Yeah, I think that's where things get really interesting, because if you have, if you get out of college and you have a pretty decent job, you won't find it, and you have some sense of discipline, right? You won't find it too difficult to get to. Oh, and and you don't have like an insane amount of student loan debt. You won't find it too.
Go to state school,
like step 3.
Just go to your state school. And I was like, if you live in the States, go to your state school. Just go to your state school. Your bachelor's don't mean shit anyway. I never worked in anything regarding international relations in my life, and I probably will never use it. It literally just means you could study, or like you could sit down in school and take tests. Like, just go to state school, get a bachelor's. I will say that it was cool because I got to meet people. Like, if I didn't go Tufts, I probably wouldn't know you. A couple of the people that helped me, like with my job.
Big Rob. We wouldn't know Big Rob.
We wouldn't know Big Rob. Oh shit, Big Rob, what's going on, bro? And see, anyway, we want to know a couple people. I want to have had all those good drunken times and stuff. But
yeah.
All right, now though, we're talking about like baby steps to like finance, like just building a financial foundation. Like people don't save or pay off their debt, or like just make sure they're set for life, or like little like stuff like that. They're always thinking about like these big wins and jumping straight into stocks and stuff like that. But they're baby steps you can take to make sure you set up and can maximize. But just take time, Might take like a 3, 4, 5 years maybe to like set you up, but And
But it's doable, man. It's
and this
super
is
doable.
minus. There are some people, at least theoretically, that I know took out big loans and stuff to make big bets on like an entrepreneurial idea they had. Like, I've read all the stories about people from FedEx and Under Armour and stuff like that went over 100K in debt because they believed in their dream and then got like one win. But statistically speaking, most businesses fail. So that's an outlier. Like, they just happen to make it. There are like probably thousands of people that did the same thing and failed. And, so just think about where you want to be.
And to piggyback off of that, another thing I was thinking about here recently, in regards to these baby steps, man, is how important it is to set yourself up so that you don't hit. If life was a game of Mario Kart, you don't hit any of those big old banana peels in the road, right? So like you don't go, you going. The first one probably be like education, right? How much did you spend on your education, and what is the value of the degree that you actually got? And that's kind of, I want to talk about that a little bit here after I name a couple of the other ones, which is the next one might be like, how much did you spend on your car, right? If you have a car, right? That's probably the next biggest one. And then what's the value of that car after a while? Next one might be like, how much is your house actually functioning as an asset, or is it functioning as a liability? And that's probably the next biggest one I want to talk about at some point in time. But let's go back to like the education piece, where like that's so huge. And I was on the phone with a plumber, all right, and he was doing a video call and just like walking me through a few things, to work on my fixing issue of plumbing. And it just hit me like, man, I don't care. Even Warren Buffett needs a plumber.
Everybody.
You know what I mean? And I think what I want to highlight is just like how much the world frowns upon the vocational trades and like the things that use your hands that we all need. Because if we look at this list of things again, whether it be like food, water, et cetera, like always gonna need a plumber. You're always gonna need an electrician. You're always gonna need food. So whatever is associated with food, but those jobs are frowned upon. Like, you don't go to university to do those things, right?
Yeah, bro. Yeah,
that's the only way to financial freedom. Go ahead, bro.
No, I was gonna say like 2 points. As you said, like universities founded on people. Like I remember the school I went to in Trinidad, they're always like preach at us, you don't want to end up like somebody working at KFC or like fast food and stuff like that. And I always felt this strange because a lot of people have to do that to get ahead, or should do that to get ahead, and like. From young, they try to set you up like that shit not good. And they do the same things in trade schools. And, and I once read an article somewhere that talked about like trade schools were like probably like the best thing you could do because it's one of the only sets of jobs that transcends countries. So if you move from a lot of these displaced migrants and stuff are moving from Syria and all these places to different countries, and they're doctors and they have masters and PhDs, and you get to the States and they tell you, okay, what the fuck you used to do in Syria? You can't come to the States and save nobody's life. Hey, you gotta drive you need to drive a taxi and get a falafel cart and shit like that. And it's just wild because it's like,
the system does do that.
And it's just so fucked up because plumbers, mechanics, and electricians, like we said to people, like to leave whatever country they're in, go somewhere else. I'm like, yeah, they're still going to be cars, and they're still going to be drilling, and they're still going to be wiring. And people look down on that. And as Rob says, you mix a business degree or business education at trade schools and stuff like that. You probably go through that life. Like, real talk. I don't have to rethink some of these entrepreneurial ideas I have. I just go get a plumbing degree and max out.
Bro, think about it this way. Like, I even for the longest time, I had this thought, but I couldn't even talk about it. Just I felt like a little shame almost, like, you know what I'm saying? Like my ancestors gonna reach by and smack me for even thinking about it, right? But when you really stop for a second, when you really stop for a second, you know, you got to look at like, if you're coming out of school with so much debt and your shovel being your income, you know, handcuffs you to that debt because you now have to use that income to be able to potentially get out of that hole. If the whole goal is freedom at the end, what? Unless you're getting somebody to pay off some of that, right? The only way that makes sense, and I'm not saying don't do it, right? But the only way it makes sense is, if you get somebody to carry a portion of that loan or debt or whatever, or if you have parents who are like, if you go to law school, if you go to medical school, I'll pay for it or whatever, and you're going to end up making 300, 400, 500 plus, and you don't have to pay the loan. That's a no-brainer. If that's what you want to do, you got to do that, you know. But when you look outside of that, for those, you know, like myself, for example, or others who don't have that in place, you got to really think about it this way. Like, why even make that giant investment into the educational machine? And I'm not saying you get like a degree that makes sense at a very low cost. I'm saying you get a degree that doesn't make sense, like most of us do, with liberal arts degrees, which are fun. Yeah, it's a good time. It's, you know, you learn a lot, you talk a lot, you do a lot. But like, what are your tactical skills? You do.
Can't do anything, bro. I wasn't made to fix things in houses. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, personally, you know, I really wish I learned that shit earlier.
Well, just 60 to 100K. Would you look at that, bro? And that's what I'm saying. The thing is, you can skip this whole educational facade. You can kind of like, if you want to go back, let's say you do welder for 5, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. And you want to go back to school, get like an engineering degree, or like, you know, or even you want to go back and try to go to like a law school or something like that. That makes a whole lot more sense. My question is, why is this not being like even mentioned as an option to young folks?
I would say this because that's about vision and understanding, bro. You think about those things and you understand the system and how it operates. And for the most part, I don't think most people understand the situation, the system, because I don't understand the system, and I can talk about that now after like going through a whole bunch of probably unnecessary shit, right? So you have parents that understand that, okay, like cool. But for the most part, most people's parents don't have that understanding, and they're coming from, we see lawyers and doctors make a lot of money. They don't necessarily understand the back end, but then they see, you know, they can tell and see that these people make a lot of money and have a lot of prestige, and that's what they want for their kid. You know, they don't know, like, they're not seeing like, well, you know, you could probably get the same thing if you do X, Y, and Z, but like, you know, gradually build up after 5 to 6 years and all these things like that. My dad used to like get mad at me when every time I was younger I told him I wanted to be a businessman. And I remember when he was like sick, my mom always tells the story, like he was like almost threw a hissy fit in like the hospital bed. Like, I really want to be a businessman. He's like, you have to focus on a career, like get a career, be a lawyer or a doctor. You know, you don't lose careers and stuff like that. So I was like, nah, man. You know, I want to learn to build systems and make profit and stuff like that. That shit's much better.
We got some dope stuff in the chat right now. You know, Rob coming in. Truckers and long haulers can easily cross 100K with a CDL license, owning and renting their 18-wheeler and starting a logistics company. Yes, sir.
Pause. Also, interesting fact about long haul truckers: it's the job most associated with serial killers. There you go.
There's no comment I can make on that. We would let that go.
You should look it up. FBI profiles talk about it all the time. It's a perfect job, bro, because you're moving from place to place, you know? Like constantly. Anyway, sorry.
Perfect, bro. Perfect. Private universities are running a racket, taking government-backed loans from young. Yes, and because they're government-backed loans, they don't care at all how they issue these loans. You can get. I had my chiropractor tell me, bro, he could easily get 100K plus to go to chiropractic school, but when he got out of school and wanted to start a business, they wouldn't even sniff his way for a 10K. They said no. What do you mean? Who cares? You got a degree, you want to start a business? Nope, that's cool. wait, but you gave me $100K to get this degree, and you wouldn't give me $10K to start my business? What do you mean? Huh?
Nah, it's too risky, bro. It's too risky.
Of course, it's not government-backed loans. It's a racket. Yep, absolutely agree. I think people also worry about timelines, like getting X degree.
You didn't go to school just to learn to start a racket. I feel like that's a good thing. I know rackets are illegal, but I was just like, I feel like racketeering is like a really good business. Anyway, let's move on.
Yeah, so is running, and so is running a religion or something, bro. But yeah,
we won't talk about that on it. They gonna come, bro. You gonna get the church. I'm gonna invest in the church 100. Anyway.
Executive course. I think people also worry about timelines. This is a really good one. Like getting X degree by whatever age versus spending that time building capital in the trades first. That's a really good point. Worrying about timeline. I think it's the same thing when you think about like marriage and like other societal pressure things. Like you got to do this by this age or you're a loser.
Biggest lie. Biggest lie.
Biggest lies. Yeah, live your life, not theirs.
But pause. This goes back to like the whole financial point. Like the whole concept of you have to have certain things by certain ages, and that's like what forces people to make decisions that's like terrible for them, like because you gotta be married before you're 30, you gotta have a car, and people are trying to force this prestige and like, well, I'm almost 30, I need people need to see me driving a BMW so they can tell I made it in life. And it's like, bro, you drive a BMW this year, you drive it at 45, 50 when like you can pay for it and afford it. Like, what's the big difference? So, same thing about like with ETFs and stuff like that. Because I had a friend, he's just like, well, he's almost 30 and he should be maxing out his 401k at 30 and doing this by this age. And I was like, bro, maybe that's not for you at this point. Like, okay, yeah, if you start earlier, better, but at the same time, doing it properly is probably the best option at all points. Like quality over like quantity any day. Like, just do what you're supposed to. Like, understand what you're supposed to decide for yourself.
And live your life. And live your life too, man. All right, that's Tink and Tonic for today, where we talk about the other baby steps, financial baby steps. Next week, we're going to talk about establishing that financial base and that personal base, right? This dude said Colts for the win.
Sorry, I saw it too. I was just like, you don't want to have him grab fruit punch. Anyway, that's what I thought when I saw it. But yeah, next week, I think we take a pause from the financial stuff for a while. Next week, I want to talk about something else. Next week, I want to talk about like mental health and meditation and journaling or just taking 10 minutes a day to treat yourself.
No, that stuff is not that important.
Force your brain.
No, that stuff is not that important. Come on, bro.
Just breathe. Internalize the prana. The prana. Prana is life.
All right. If you got an idea for what you want to hear next, we'll send it through and we'll make a decision to let you know. But same time next week.
I'm gonna teach you to be fly.
4:30?
It's 4:30 Pacific, 7:30 Eastern.
All right. Bet. We'll see you there. Peace.